Hey everyone, and welcome to this explainer. Today we're diving deep into the core philosophy and mechanics of a massively influential text, The Secret. We're going to objectively break down exactly how this book claims our thoughts quite literally shape our physical reality. It's a fascinating concept, so let's just dive right into it.
Here's how we're going to break this down today. We'll start with uncovering the great secret and the law of attraction. Then, we'll look at the exact three-step blueprint the book provides, explore the role of feelings and gratitude, and see how the text applies this to wealth, relationships, and health. Finally, we'll wrap up with the book's grand view of human destiny.
But before we even get to that blueprint, I want you to consider the number 60,000. Get this, scientists actually estimate that we have about 60,000 thoughts every single day. Now, trying to monitor every single one of those, that's completely impossible. You drive yourself crazy. And that perfectly sets up exactly why understanding the underlying mechanism we're talking about today is absolutely crucial. All right, let's jump straight into Section 1, A Great Secret. So the source text actually begins with the author's own discovery of this historical secret. And she didn't find it during a time of triumph, but actually during a period of immense personal despair, physical exhaustion, and the really heartbreaking loss of her father. Out of that darkness, she claims to have uncovered a hidden principle that the greatest minds in history used. To back this up, the source presents a pretty staggering statistic. It points out that just 1% of the population earns 96% of the world's wealth. According to the text, that's literally no coincidence. It claims these individuals aren't just lucky, they inherently understand and utilize this specific secret to pull prosperity directly toward themselves.
Moving right along to Section 2, the law of attraction.
Okay, so the core mechanic of this whole philosophy is the idea that our thoughts act quite literally like magnets. The book says they emit specific, measurable frequencies out into the world. The foundational definition here is simple: like attracts like. The text asserts that your thoughts become things by drawing similar frequencies right into your reality. So basically, the universe is faithfully responding to whatever imagery you're holding in your head. Whether you're dwelling on the past, stressing about the present, or anticipating the future, the text says this creation process is always running in the background.
Now here's a really vital linguistic distinction the source makes. It claims the universe simply does not process negative words like no or don't. Think about it like this. If you say, "I don't want to be late," the universe only registers the concept of late, and, well, it brings you exactly that. Instead, the book says you have to focus entirely on what you do want. Say, "I want to be on time." The idea is that focusing on your fears only attracts more of those exact same fears.
To make this super concrete, the author shares this amazing anecdote about a guy named Robert. Robert was dealing with some really severe homophobic bullying at work and on the streets, and his emails to the author were just entirely focused on how miserable he was. But when he was instructed to stop focusing on the torment he hated and instead visualize his true ultimate desire, which was becoming a successful stand-up comedian, the book claims a miraculous turnaround happened. Within weeks, the bullies either transferred out or just left him alone. His environment became safe and his comedy career completely took off, leading to standing ovations.
Okay, let's look at Section 3, 3 steps to ask.
So now that we kind of get the theory, how do we actually put this into practice? The text provides a practical toolkit anchored by this brilliant metaphor. It basically frames the entire universe as Aladdin's genie. The universe isn't sitting there judging your requests or deciding if you're worthy of them. It's simply waiting unconditionally to fulfill any order you place. It always responds with one single phrase: "Your wish is my command."
And the source breaks this down into 3 very specific steps. Step 1 is ask. You've got to be crystal clear about what you want and actually write it down as if you already have it. Step 2 is belief. You need unwavering faith in the unseen. And this is crucial. The text insists you don't need to figure out how it's going to happen, just that it will. Finally, step 3 is receive. This means generating the profound emotional feeling of already possessing what you've asked for, right in this very moment.
Now you might be wondering, how on earth do I just believe without actually seeing the path? Well, the text offers this great night driving metaphor. Think about driving a car in the pitch dark. Your headlights only illuminate about 200 feet ahead of you, right? Yet you can drive all the way from one city to another in complete darkness because that light moves with you. According to the book, you don't need to see the entire path to your destination. You really only need enough faith to take that very first step.
Which brings us to Section 4, the power of feelings and gratitude.
Remember those 60,000 thoughts a day we talked about earlier? Since trying to control all of them is basically impossible, the source suggests using an emotional feedback loop instead. It says you should use your feelings as a built-in compass for your frequency. And a massive tool for this is gratitude. The text shares a really powerful story about a gratitude rock. The author carried a simple rock in her pocket to use as a physical, daily reminder to consciously give thanks. Amazingly, the text claims that sending 3 of these rocks to a friend in South Africa actually helped cure his son's terminal hepatitis. By consciously shifting their emotional frequency from despair to intense gratitude, the family supposedly triggered a miraculous healing.
Let's move on to Section 5 and see how this applies to health, relationships, and wealth.
So how exactly does the source claim this philosophy can radically alter our day-to-day reality in these major areas? Let's talk money first. The author literally describes taking whiteout to erase the totals on her actual physical bills and writing in her desired bank balances instead. The text insists that if you sit around dreading getting bills in the mail, guess what? You're only going to attract more bills. By completely shifting your focus to actively expecting checks and really visualizing earning massive sums like $100,000 or $1 million, the book claims you shift your entire financial reality.
What about relationships? Well, the absolute prerequisite here, according to the text, is self-love. You simply can't attract a loving partner if you aren't treating yourself with respect first. There's this fascinating story in the book about an art director who just couldn't find romance. And the reason? He was constantly painting these solitary, aloof women. Once he aligned his environment with his actual desires and started painting happy couples, his love life completely transformed. The text also gives a practical tip. Focus strictly on your partner's positive traits for 30 straight days instead of complaining. Apparently, this is supposed to dissolve conflicts entirely.
Now, when it comes to health, the text makes some pretty extreme claims. It points heavily to the placebo effect as proof of the mind's ultimate healing power. It goes on to cite cases like a woman who claimed to heal her breast cancer in just 3 months, without radiation or chemo, relying completely on gratitude and watching comedy movies. It also tells the incredible story of Morris Goodman, a plane crash survivor who is completely paralyzed. According to the source, by focusing his mind entirely and exclusively on his goal, he literally walked out of the hospital on his own 2 feet by Christmas.
To really synthesize this whole idea of intense, positive focus, the text pulls in this brilliant quote from Mother Teresa. She supposedly once said, "I will never attend an anti-war rally. If you have a peace rally, invite me." This just perfectly captures the core philosophy of the text. Fighting against what you don't want, like war or poverty, only creates more resistance and gives that negative thing more energy. The message is clear. You must focus purely on the exact thing you do want.
Finally, we reach Section 6. You are the creator of your destiny.
The underlying argument here really leans into a blend of quantum physics and spirituality. It asserts that at a microscopic level, absolutely everything in the universe is simply shifting, indestructible energy. And because you are an energy field deeply connected to the entire universe, the book says you possess the divine power to create your own world. Crucially, this means you are completely unbound by your past traumas, just like the author who overcame a really difficult, impoverished background, or whatever your current circumstances might happen to be right now.
And that essentially wraps up our explainer on this philosophy. The source leaves us with this deeply empowering analogy. You are the author of your own life. So the final, provocative question straight from the text is this: what will you do now that you hold the pen? How will you write your own story now that you understand these mechanics? It is definitely something to chew on. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and as always, keep learning.